like I mentioned Gardiner to Tom Tom Rennie, I says you got to join the Sharks when you retire because that's when you'll have time. And I
Yes.
don't know if you'll ever retire, but
Yeah.
when you stop coaching and are looking for something to stay in the game with, come on board because the people on here, we're lifelong learners, and the title "No Dead Sharks" comes from Tim's Bothwell's line in the Woody Allen movie.
Yes.
His girlfriend in the movie asked him what they what does he think of the relationship, and he said, "Well, it's like a shark. It's not swimming, it's not breathing, it's dying." So
That's
we're all
great.
swimming and learning. So thanks again for your time, Gardner. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. All the best,
Thank you,
fellas.
Gardner.
Thank you.
Take
Yeah.
care. Bye bye.
Excellent.
Well, guys, I'm just curious here if some of you are staying on about your favorite takeaways from this, if anything. Anybody?
I think what I found to be the most refreshing was that the processes and the ways that he went from the CIAU to the junior, and how he got his team to play the best that they could and didn't really worry about, the oppositions. He knew what he was up against, and they were the underdogs. But it was very refreshing to me having those viewpoints and the things that made them successful, because it just reminded me that the way that I've always done things isn't outdated. And occasionally, us sharks get referred to as outdated, and I really take offense to that, because the minds that are on here are all leading edge in my mind. And the things that he talked about just reconfirmed a lot of the beliefs that I've held my whole life, and a lot of the people here obviously hold. I was laughing through most of it, because it reconfirmed to me that the good of what he did, and how he did it, and got the team to focus within themselves. And you know what? It's a hockey game. The score is 0-0 when you start, and if you don't beat yourself, and you play within your means, and I love the simplicity that he talked about, like, because I think that that's one of the challenges we face, is simplifying this thing. The principles. I love the word principles too. It was well
Jordan,
done.
okay, go ahead, Kerry. Anything else?
Nope, not right now.
Okay. Jordan?
Yeah, I just jump on what Kerry was saying there. The big takeaway for me is he calls them principles instead of systems, looking more principles than systems. I know that Marty St. Louis, it was structure over systems. So it's that piece of big picture thinking rather than uh, having players so so stuck on systems that they don't think. So it's that piece, and yeah, it was really good, Wally. Thanks for having him on.
Tom Malloy.
I think it was great. It was great how he kind of restructured their mindset when he got them together. That play with the principles, and that they were going to be the hardest workers. I think that's a big thing. That one of the biggest things he's done, and I hear from other years, his teams are more fit and work harder than other teams, and I think that's what he implemented there. That was the important thing for the guys to do: shorten the shifts up a little, and really give it when you're out there. And and that's everybody knows that's what you should do, but it's really hard to implement. And
it's, it's probably it's probably what drives us all crazy, Tom, because it's probably not as hard to implement. It just we don't, and or I shouldn't say we wouldn't, but I love the maybe taking the minute shift down to a 48-second shift with high intensity, and I started giggling about it. It was just refreshing. I'll tell you that much.
I liked his reference, and this is what intrigued me. He talked about three line hockey, making the fourth line still feel valued and using them at that level and giving TV time out. It all made sense. Terry, you talked about minor hockey being two line and even one line hockey. And that point of shift length, exhaustion, physiology for the sake of winning is the demise of our game. And so when you said the Sharks are outdated, you're right. We're outdated, but we're right.
Well, but we're also leading edge, and I think that's the unfortunate part about it. I mean, because we got open minds, and you've seen the successes that stuff like this brings. I don't find the Sharks outdated at all. All I find out is that a lot of people don't respect the experiences and the mindsets of the people they should, and that's a crime to me, Tom. I mean, there's plenty of us that have been through the experiences out there and had successes, and and Gardiner, I mean, with his university team is a 4-line team because they play at such high intensity that they have to. They couldn't fundamentally play, and there's a different amount of games at the university level, versus the junior level. I understand that, but I think for the most part, what he does is he gets everyone to feel a part of the team, and that's what's important.
It's the weirdest thing in minor hockey that they have you, like in Canada, unless you're in the very elite, like the AAA, they have 17 skaters, which is 11 forward, 6D, or you know what I mean? So you always have to have somebody double shifting or rotating double shifting, and even for practice, it's crappy. Because if you have 4 lines, the way you can run practice and roll things is so much better than you have, that 2 players on one thing. And I have no idea why Hockey Canada has that rule of 19 instead of 20.
Well, and I think at the younger ages, like before you get to Bantam, AA, and even some of the Pee-wees, I would like to have more teams, and I like the 3 lines and 5 defense to get more rotation and playing more game time, but with you have more teams. So instead of getting narrower with the numbers and having one team that has 4 lines and or whatever that amount is, just add another team and do the 3 lines and 5D. It all depends how much ice you got too, right?
Well, I think 3 lines and 3 sets of D would be better than 17 skaters. And probably because I've coached college so much that you practice so much that it just makes practices just way easier to manage and distribute the work and all this better.
You don't exhaust the kids as much in practice because there's enough guys to.
I wanted to get Hal's feedback, sort of with his lifetime experience and still actively coaching in high school hockey. What are your takeaways from his presentation, Hal?
Well, I just love it. I mean, that's a very, very unique situation. But it's no different actually than if you come in as a brand new coach in a different program, or you got a whole new group. You have to do some of the things that he had to do. But as I think about the whole thing, and just like Kerry was saying, and you listen to him and you go, oh yeah, I know that. I mean, that you were going, but why do we know that? Because we've been doing this for so long, and we learned. I mean, he learned too. You don't grow up, you're not hatched as a baby as a hockey coach and know all this stuff, right? You got to learn it. You got to learn it the hard way sometimes, and unless you're just stubborn. But I really thought it was terrific. I also think that the 3-line, 4-line stuff, Tom, you're right. Practicing with that short number is clearly a problem. in minor, you call it minor, we call it youth. Where I coach down here, a lot of the teams only have 13 skaters. And then they have more teams. But it's hell for practice. It's awful. But you know what they do? They don't practice very much. They play a lot of games. They play 65 or 70 games. And, and I don't like that because they develop a lot of bad habits if you don't get them back on the practice rink and kind of dial them back in. But anyways, overall, I thought it was great. I'm going to share Wally, I'm going to share the video of this with the head coach of our program. I'm going to send it up to the trail head coach in the BCHL. I think hopefully he'll watch it. I hope he'll get a lot out of it. In the last week, one of my former players is applying for his first head coach job at a high school in Minnesota. So I've been on the phone with him quite a bit. So he's going to get a link for this. So yeah, I mean, I just, we're not out of date. We do it right, I think. So I loved it. Thanks for asking for my input. I appreciate it. Sometimes I talk too much, but I appreciate you including me.
The thing that I was reminded of and took away, and I'm almost embarrassed about, was the attention to detail that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And how he looks after the X's and O's to a degree that I've never done. And coupled with that, his ability to know the importance of players feeling important and valued, how to communicate with them so that they believe in themselves, and to buy in, is a perfect example of how to coach in that environment. So I think it's a lesson for all coaches that there's a line between being too technical. And I don't mind just playing games, Hal, because not every coach is going to have the knowledge to teach. They might confuse, and they might turn kids off and be negative. So they might be better off just playing games and focusing on good habits and cheering good habits, but writing a list down of what are they, and let's cheer each other about the good habits. And let's not.
The other thing that he said, and he said it really quickly, which I haven't done it every year, but I've done it quite often. He does a profile sheet on every kid. He has them fill it out. What's your favorite movie? What's the last book you read for pleasure? Did any of your parents play sports at a high level? And if so, what are they? Do you have an older brother or a sibling that's a great? So you can, what's your favorite course in school? So you have, so now what you're doing is you're saying, I care about you. I want to know who you are. And I think that goes a long ways. And I think I used to say, and when I did that role of the coach for the USA Hockey clinics forever, I'd say, you've got to spend twice as much time coaching on the off ice on getting to know players than you're already doing. To do this right takes a ton of time. It's 800 hours a year, and most coaches won't spend the time. They just won't invest enough into the kids and getting to know them. If they play other sports, show up at those games in the off season. Just show up. That's all you got to do. Stuff like that. I mean, detail, caring. Get those kids to know you care about them.
If I was to describe Gardiner, the most important thing is he's authentic.
Oh.
He's authentic. You can trust him in a hurry. And trust builds respect. And once you have that, buy-in is easy. So he's a coach that walks the talk of the mission statement of what sports are for. He really appreciates the importance of hard work, work ethic, learning, accepting roles, earning roles. Uh, I'm just so thankful he was able to come on, and I might encourage him to come on again later when we can get another prominent guest in and have some questions ready for them. I know everything I wanted to ask was covered over the course of the entire conversation. So, Brax, I'm glad you could join us. Welcome. I thought about you and how you built a team of grinders to win. I don't imagine your grinders, they did learn to score, but that Scotty Bowman line, your team learned to do what they could do to the best of their ability, and it achieved success. And I think Gardiner would be really proud of what you've done with those young kids and with your philosophy. So let's keep banging on the door of ethical coaching and doing things the right way and making the game better. Thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate your time. We're close to 2 hours. It's an average length session. So, Tom, anything you want to say in closing?
Oh, I really enjoyed this session here. But I'm going to play this afternoon, and 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 with the nets at the top of the circles. And what I'm learning from it, it makes the most difference of anything I've ever done in my life as far as skill and handling the puck, and like and I'm just saying for myself, because a guy came out that I hadn't played since last year, eh? And he said, "Have you been working on your stick handling?" And it's just from these little games. You just got the puck in your stick all the time. So you take that thing and you say, how do I do this in practice so that the players have small groups, are getting the puck all the time, they're not standing in line, and that kind of stuff. So, it's kind of a personal thing, but, I am playing this afternoon, and my best player from last year is going to come. She came into town from northern BC. She's going to come and play with us. So that'll be interesting.
Hell, what Tom just said, that's why I think play more games and the practices you have, make them all like that. It's easy. You don't need to know how to coach then. You let them play and they'll learn how to play and they'll get puck touches. And by trial and error, like he mentioned on passing, he looks at handling the puck and feel. He teaches it. He teaches the fundamentals so that you can do that. And that can be done very early at a very young age, but it isn't.
It was interesting to hear him say that he allowed 3 missed passes in the 4 warm-up drills. So he probably goes about 10 minutes with these quick, but 3 was a max that was allowable. So guys have to focus on taking passes.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the worst skill we have in Canada, is taking passes.
Well,
especially with the new sticks.
Yeah, they're pretty stiff, but they flex and you can shoot to score.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the other things I found interesting was, and just my final little note, is when he talked about the 6 skilled chemistry guys, and I always refer to the foot soldiers, right? And how in-game coaching, he would switch some of those around depending on his own coaching. And when I made the comment about that's part of being the secret of being a great coach, it just reminded me that, that process sometimes, when you start a game, you can keep the same group together at times, but, the Scotty Bowmans of the world, sometimes guys aren't on. And the use of the 6 forwards and then the other 6 forwards is what I would always do. It was, I called them my foot soldiers, or I called them my 6 guys, whatever you want to call it. But it was interesting him mentioning how he gained the trust of those kids so early, or so well, that they wouldn't, they would let him make those decisions without much, much problem, obviously. I mean, it was good to hear